Welcome into the NAO show. I don't know what edition we want to call this in, but we wanted the show, darn it, and the guys had already agreed to cancel one, so we're here. We're gonna make this
Yeah, my
happen.
don't adjust your screens. Sean didn't just all of a sudden get way more good looking and better at fantasy. That it's Ian. So don't get confused. And I just find it really convenient for the hosts that this was the week they decided, oh yeah, we can't really do this week because holidays and whatever. You know, however, to me, Sean got his butt whooped by who he speaks as the worst player in the league consistently. Mark lost a heartbreaker to his colleague and somebody who's in a rebuild, and obviously Mike lost to a competitor and a perennial playoff team, but still another heartbreaker. So I just think it's kind of convenient that they decided to take a pause this week. I wasn't going to let that happen.
Convenience. You could say it's probably definitely that, but I'm glad you're wearing the hat today, even though it's a Patriots hat. I'm glad you're wearing the hat to hide the balding that Sean accuses you of. Um, so there it is. There's the top. It's coming in thick. Hey, that is that shampoo that regrows it? Is that what that's going on?
That's right. Yeah. It's mixed with crack cocaine and Mountain Dew, but it
Uh,
works.
all right. Well, let's get right into this thing. We're gonna follow the same format, and we are gonna go right into trades. It was the trade deadline. Ian, before we get into the trades, we're gonna review. Are there any trades that did not happen that you want to touch on? You didn't complete a trade this deadline.
Yeah, I didn't really feel like I needed to. I mean, I kind of got two freebie RB1s between Wilson and Montgomery. Obviously it's a shame with Herbert injury for Mike, but it allows Montgomery the free reign of the backfield, and then the Wilson trade to Miami has been phenomenal. At least as far as I mean, obviously Edmonds is gone, and Mostert is, I believe, hurt and basically an afterthought at this point. So I'm excited. So I didn't really feel like I needed to make a move. So yeah,
And there's the humble gloat, ladies and gentlemen. You'll hear it plenty of times across the rest of this broadcast. Just stay tuned. But let's get right into trades. We're going to pop up on the screen here, get a little fancy high tech for you. The first trade we're going to look at is this one right here, the Prince, Tank Top Mike. Ian, I know you're excited to talk about this one. Clyde Edwards Elaire gets shipped off to Tank Top Mike. He
yeah.
also gets
For
a fourth from Mick Jammer. And then he gets the Prince got Zamir White and Mike's first or fourth. So if you look at rosters this year, Mike got the better fourth and got Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a guy he drafted at 407 this year. Thoughts?
Yeah, I wonder if Sean's off his meds because I believe it was like a week and a half ago that Clyde was still three firsts, a quick hand job around the back of the shed, and a future fourth. And all of a sudden, I don't know what Mike. I don't know. So they did meet in Tampa Bay a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, the Jamar Chase trade went down there. There's a lot of sketchy stuff going on behind the scenes. I'm not sure. They're not meeting today. I don't know. There's definitely some suspicious activity going on. But whatever Mike did, I mean, if you just value it as half of what Sean wanted for him, I mean, Mike raped him. Just pure trade rape. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably the most talented running back ever to come out of college. If you listen to some members of this league, um, yeah, perfect situation in Kansas City. The guy just needs to be healthy, and he's going to be a locked in RB1, probably the RB1. And I honestly couldn't be more excited for Mike to be getting a piece of such exciting piece coming in.
Well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the handcuff in Kansas City. I think I have the RB1 in Kansas City right now. Talking about de facto RB1s, Pacheco looking pretty decent. But no, this was an interesting one, and I know for Sean had to be a little bittersweet because there were so many offers for Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the offseason. We offered, I don't even remember what the offers were. I know Juju was involved in one. that almost got across. I know Mike had talked to him. I think you might have sniffed around the CEH waters at one point.
No, Mixon was the only piece on his team as far as running back that I come close to in the past, but because his valuations are just egregious. So, but what I do find amusing about this trade is last week Mark got Singletary, who the Prince uh, gave away in the CEH trade, along with I believe 2 firsts and a second or something crazy like that. So Mark got a nice little package for Singletary. I just find it amusing. It's one of my favorite full circle trades in this league's history.
I should have pulled up the history on it, but I did not. We'll move on since you brought up Mark. Moving on. The next one here was I have 2 trades coming up. Yay me! All right, so we got just the
busy.
tips, or is it just the tip? I think it's just the tip now. No S. It's not plural.
Can I suggest a name change for that team if Lana's going to continue managing it? I think should be called Just the Chode. Sure. Anyways, moving on.
Oh, God. Does Landon know what chode means? That's what the people.
He's an English teacher. Surely he knows what a chode is. I mean, he has intimate knowledge as what a chode is. But anyways, I don't want to harbor on.
All right, let's get this thing back on the rails. This trade, Ian, we sent KJ Osborne a 2023 second, that is Quest for 6 or A-Bombs second, a 2025 third, which was also A-Bombs, and our 2025, or no, that's Ricky's tips, chode, whatever. It's their 2025 third. So 2 2025 thirds, a 23 second, and Osborne for Kirk, who is currently wide receiver 9 on the year, just coming off his bye week. A 2024 fifth and a 2025 fifth because we like our late round picks back. What do you think about this one? And I'll give a short synopsis.
Yeah, it's another win now move for you guys, obviously. This is second or third one you've made. At least he's not as old as the other pieces you've picked up, but so far they've paid off. So I think it's an astute move in that respect, and really you haven't given up too much in the way of immediate capital. So yeah, I like the move for you. I don't hate it either for whatever that concoction of a team is right now, because they are in a rebuild. So, that's some decent capital, a couple of it obviously being a few years out, but that doesn't matter necessarily because I think they're at least 2 years away from being competitive anyways. That 23 second is nice, even though it'll be a later one, most likely late to middle. But yeah, I think it's a good trade for both sides. I get it from both sides. And for me, it's a win now move for you guys. You didn't have to pay too much for it because I think Kirk obviously takes a hit next year you would presume when your man comes back from suspension. So
he's no longer our man. I mean, we traded him off. He is on.
True. That's true. But yeah, when Ridley comes back from suspension, that trade looks a little different. But right now, I like it.
Yeah, so and that's total. I mean, I think you can see some of that baked into the cost here. At the end of the day, I viewed it a lot like, obviously, Marquise Brown's in a different situation now, but kind of Marquise Brown last year mid-year. He was a wide receiver 1 coming off a career year, but everybody was so skeptical about the future, and that's kind of what I see here with Kirk. Obviously, Kirk just turned 26 on the 18th of this month. Actually, don't ask me why I know that. But just turned 26, so still a mid to young receiver. This is one, and I won't go too in depth on it, but it wasn't a move we had to make, right? He's like my 6th receiver right now on our team because Tyler Lockett is consistent for some reason all of a sudden, and Old Man Hopkins still has it. So we didn't have to add Kirk, but the thought process was this is our last chance to add anything. If A.J. Brown, who has been a bit injury-prone in his career, goes down, if Odell Beckham somehow comes out and looks like a stud and signs with the Cowboys and it hurts CD, if any of those things were to happen now, we have another guy that we feel like's plug and play. And, Ian, this is a tab off your book. Volume, baby. Just get volume, baby. You're like
Yeah.
the volume Al Davis. So,
No, it's a good trade. I like to say I like it for both teams. I don't love it for me, but yeah, ultimately I think it's a trade that makes a lot of sense. So
well, you said you like this one for you, even though you're not in the trade. So we'll get there in just a minute. But Rondell Moore goes to Dilly, a player he coveted for a little while. Some other guys liked Rondell Moore too. We did. A 2024 third, which is Mike's, and we get a 2024 first, which is Mike's, back, and a 2025 fourth. So keeping the theme of getting those late round picks back. We didn't have any fourth or fifth round picks before these last two trades. So getting back on brand, if you will. And we currently have 2024 first. Really, that was the goal for me. Really didn't want to get rid of Rondell, but when I looked at our receiver room, it was going to be hard to play him right now. And first round picks, future first round picks, don't tear ACLs. They don't have gambling that gets them suspended. They can't get kicked off a team because they haven't been drafted yet. So it was kind of a move to ensure some stability in assets rather than having it all in players. Was my thought. So probably just the quintessential board trade, but I'll hear what you have to say.
yeah, no, I mean I'm hoping you. Who was the one that was in the car crash?
Hollywood Brown?
No. The one that went to jail because of the car crash. Henry Ruggs. I'm hoping you draft the next Henry Ruggs with that 24 first. But that aside, I think it's a good value trade for both teams. I think even Mike might agree with this. His team is obviously sort of short-term win now. There's not as much depth there as maybe there are for other teams. What's that?
Sean, you called Dilly Mike.
No. I'm talking about his pick, which is why I'm valuing the pick out a certain way.
I got you. Okay, continue.
Keep up, Mark. Keep up,
I
Mark.
was ready to call you out, but I missed one.
Demerit. So assuming he doesn't make too many moves, and he's not, we know he's not afraid of a move or two, but that first could be on the earlier side, where right now you may value it as a later pick, but there's potential there for it to creep up there. I like it for Dilly. It gives him the opportunity to compete for the Miyagi Ball with another piece that can play now, assuming that groin isn't a long-term issue. Groins are always a concern. They tend to linger. So I'm hoping it's not serious and they pulled him just precautionarily because they didn't necessarily, they didn't need him. They got blown out anyway. So yeah, hoping it's not long-term and he's able to utilize Rondell this season. But worst case, he got a good 22-year-old piece that's already flashed. So I like it for him. And he got that mid-round pick a year earlier. So I think overall, I think it's another good 50-50 trade. And the reason I like it for me is assuming Rondell Moore does come back and he does help Dilly in the playoffs, that boosts that first round pick and the second round pick I have of Dilly's going into 2023. So
the question is, are you and Mark just going to go sit on a couch together, put your arms around each other, share the same popcorn bowl as you watch Dilly in the Miyagi Bowl? Because you have his first and second, and Mark has his third, fourth, and fifth.
Yeah, we might have to FaceTime or stream that game out for sure.
All right, that does it for the trades, and we are way too long into this show already. I think it's probably going to be around 13, 12 minutes. So let's get right into the week in review. And,
yes.
He said, "Oh yes, yes for that."
I want to leave the marquee matchup of the week to last because for me it's not even the most exciting one. So let's start with my favorite matchup of the week. Oh, we can go down the list and leave my one to last if you want. Yeah, let's go. Let's just do this one.
Okay.
Aaron beat the tips.
It'll take a lot of time.
Yeah, Aaron beat the tips. We kind of knew that was going to happen.
Something interesting, though, for A-Bomb is Josh Allen posting less than 13 points and still scoring 120 is pretty impressive.
Yes, it is. Najee finally rediscovered that he was a running back in the NFL, not a lineman. So that was nice to watch.
And holy crap, Devontae Adams! I didn't realize what kind of 3-game tear he was on.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's insane.
So he's got in the last 3 weeks 31.6, 23.10, and 29.6 points.
Yeah, and a few targets, just a few targets there in that stretch too.
You know,
44.
There's some math to be had there. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's definitely helping Aaron out there, carrying his ass because that's hard to overcome. But yeah, Aaron kind of had a little bit of a resurgence to form. Some solid performances throughout the team. Couple of poopies, but yeah, I mean it was kind of what we expected to see. Although the Tips did have a decent week for them at 90 points in that region.
One thing I love here is Airgate cuts Slayton after trying to trade him all last offseason. You add him and cut him. And then Abon picks him up, and the guys has a really clear path to being a weekly flex upside player the rest of the year with Wandale hurt. Everybody's out, and he's getting 10 targets.
Tony traded. Galladay's a piece of garbage. Shepard's on IR. Yeah, he's literally the only receiver left.
Wide receiver 3, borderline 2 numbers out of Slayton the rest of the season. You know this is about to happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. He has an affinity for doing that, just like picking up random piece of garbage, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're relevant. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, I mean it's all right. So real quick, just because I want to touch on a few things for the Tips, Palmer and Paris Campbell pay off pretty quickly. Campbell obviously under 10 points, but still to see him involved with the offense against a tough defense was good. Palmer just went banana town.
Mm-hmm.
That's what everybody wanted to see out of him. The Tips are going to have to find some running backs, Ian.
Yes, they are, and a tight end because Pitts is on IR. Yeah, so, although I don't know that they'll miss him that much because he's been trash.
Yeah, they started Hurst this week. Sky Moore did something that had to make him feel pretty good too. I know it did because I tried to trade for him and got shut down pretty quickly. They do have Latavius Murray though.
Yeah, that's a nice little replacement for Gordon. But yeah, interesting for sure.
All right.
So moving on.
Which one do you want me to do next?
Gilly versus the Prince.
So 111.84 to 85.02.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Up and down, it's 112 to 85.
That was beautiful. It wasn't even close, which is great. I love it.
And the projections. Prince underachieved.
Yeah, and he was, and I want to establish it early because I'll forget otherwise. The Miyagi of the Week award goes to the Prince. Congratulations, Sean. You suck. Worse than anybody else.
Oh God, you were excited about this one.
Oh yeah. Woo-hoo.
So Tony friggin' Pollard, by the way.
Oh yeah, I loved every minute of that. Not every target.
Did Sean lose, but he lost to his cousin's, one of his favorite players, probably.
To quote Mark, I like James Conner. He had a good game.
Conner, yep. So Pollard was a trade recently. I want to touch on this one because that was one trade that I did not understand for Mark. Ertz, Palmer, and a fourth for Pollard. I don't know if Ertz was hurt this time. It was early in the month.
And then he moved Palmer in another trade, right? I believe.
Yeah, he moved Palmer in a package
for Singletary. Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know. I do just kind of want to touch on that. I think Dilly's been making some astute trades, so credit there. But just kind of moving down this list, Dameon Pierce had a tough task. Washington's defense has finally woke up from the depths of suck, and that's really gave Pierce a hard time.
Chase is back.
Yeah. And then, he's got some receivers doing some things here, but Chase Claypool, a trade he made for, man, that's been brutal.
Yeah, that triple way trade, I don't know. Always, I think we'll see what Chase does, but Claypool is garbage. Mike actually said to me in our messages or whatever. He's glad because I was sort of tipped to go to that game in Tampa, but it was the same week as my hunting trip in West Virginia, so I couldn't go. But he was like, he's glad I didn't go because he knew that trade wouldn't go through if I was there. So
You would have torpedoed it, is what you're
uh,
saying?
there's a good shot. Yeah, there's a good shot. I wouldn't have allowed Mike to get the package he did for what he gave up. But yeah, for sure, he did good there.
I think we can all agree, though, the key to this game was Antonio Gibson and Damian Harris.
Oh yeah, I mean that's just automatic starts for sure. When you're going up against guys like Henderson and Damian Pierce, it's never going to be a win. When you're able to play Gibson and Harris over Pierce and Henderson, it's an automatic W. I think Dylan had a pretty casual, pretty relaxed weekend. Enjoyed cruise to the W.
So Gibson had more carries than Henderson. Gibson had more carries than Gibson, Claypool, and Jefferson had touches.
There you go. Yeah, and McKissick's on IR, so Gibson, it might end up being another decent piece down the line. Like you say, I agree. I think Dylan's had a couple of good trades here in the season to kind of right the ship a little bit.
So
Done
one
well.
thing is, I do want to mention about this game. If Mixon doesn't get hurt, I think it might be a different game. You see what Samaje Perine did down the stretch. I think
He did most of that. He did most of that when Mixon was on the field, though. So 2 of those touchdowns, Mixon was on the field.
Wow, I did not
Yeah,
realize that one.
yeah. One was, I think they might have both been swing passes, which we know that they don't utilize Mixon in the passing game hardly any at all anyway. So he was up to like 20 points and Mixon was still on the field. So
So that
I
put
think he would have lost anyways. Is what that's what I'm trying to say.
so Dylan gets his second win of the season. Prince falls to 4-7 and out of playoff contention, I believe.
I think it would take a miracle. I think Aaron has to lose every single game, and Sean has to score a crap ton of points to overcome
Sean
that.
had scored more points than you.
No,
Well,
I'm above him now.
Okay. All right, so moving on down the list here, we'll just go to my game next, get it out of the way. This one I actually kind of sweated a little bit as we were going into Monday
Yeah.
night, just because the game was in Mexico and weirder things have happened. But come out with a win. Lamar Jackson did not play hot for us. I didn't touch on the score. Let's say 120 to 111 was the final in a potential playoff matchup. I'll let you give your thoughts on this one quickly.
Yeah, for me, I needed Goofy to lose this week. Wasn't really happy with some of your choices going into the Monday night game. There was big rumors that Hopkins wasn't going to play. Obviously, we knew that Kyler wasn't going to play. And I forgot you had Rondell, to be honest with you. So I was like, you piece of garbage, what are you doing? But as it turned out, Hopkins was the play, and Rondell certainly wasn't. Thankfully, I got a.
No. Greg Dortch was the play.
Well, yeah, but Hopkins was certainly enough for you to get the W as I needed you to. So, yeah, it was a tighter matchup than I anticipated. Goofy seems to be getting those this year. He seems to be this year's Dilly, where people tend to have a tighter, maybe they underperform a little bit more than they maybe do in other weeks, and he tends to. I mean, he doesn't put out bad numbers, but it just seems like everybody kind of like doesn't quite hit their peak when they play him. So, because he's way down there in points for. So yeah, it was a good. I mean, it was a good one to watch. I like to watch you guys sweat. So yeah,
I just want a T-shirt that says "I survived the Jamal Williams 3 touchdown game."
yeah, for sure.
Jamal Williams put up 3 touchdowns. What was funny is I posted in another league we're in. I love Jamal Williams because I started him, and then I quickly remembered after I posted that, wait, Goofy has Jamal Williams. Surely he didn't start him too.
Yeah.
In his flex spot, there he is. So yeah,
you got lucky a little bit with Mike Williams's re-aggravation of that ankle injury, I think, and I mean, otherwise it was Duvernay had just a turd on the field. So other than that, he had a super solid week from top to bottom. So yeah. It's a good matchup.
We started Brian Robinson, who got 15 carries. He kind of was a bit touchdown dependent, though, unfortunately, with 57 yards only. That one was really probably the only bad start we had because we had some other guys that did well. Should have started Pacheco, I guess.
Should have started Pacheco. Or Dortch.
Or Dortch. Well, Dortch wasn't on our roster until Monday afternoon, so I can't really call that one too much. All right.
Okay.
Let's look at. We only got 2 games left. We got yours and
Mark's versus FNG.
You
You want to say that one for last? All right, fine.
So let's go to yours. You knock off your second win in a row after 4 losses straight. 127.7 to 126.96. This made Sunday Night Football fun to watch. I said that.
Well, it depends on your perspective. Because for me, it was very hot and cold. It was a roller coaster of emotions. The turntables were turning. It was all over the place. I kind of anticipated. Again, I spoke to Mike in chat, and when Sunday ended the way it did, at least the midday slate, and all of our teams were done on Sunday, it was kind of incestuous in the fact that my quarterback was thrown to his running back, his quarterback was thrown into Kelsey and Tony, and I'm like, this could be very much up and down game, and as it turned out to be, and I said to him, like, I was in lead up to the game, I was so between Watson, Tony, and Debo, but I figured, as bad as the Chargers defense has been, I want as much of that Mahomes passing attack as possible. I want to soak up 50 to 60% of the targets if I can, so I can try and neutralize his potential upside, right? So I went Tony. Fantastic decision in the end. I was like, after I watched Christian Watson just bomb on Thursday, I'm like, oh man, I made a boo-boo. But it was a good game. It was fun. It was fun to be a part of. Obviously, Giants -1. That's not great either. They are now no longer on my roster. But it was good to see Montgomery kind of hit his heights again. There was some good performances throughout the team. Cook and Saquon kind of obviously disappointed a little bit. But T. Higgins had a great game. Kelsey is a stud. With that last 30 seconds touchdown.
Brass tacks real quick. Hold on. First off, credit where credit's due. T. Higgins had a good game without a touchdown, so credit there. When I watched that game, the play before Kelsey's 3rd touchdown, I was looking at it. They're marching down the field. Mahomes also is running the ball, which is perfect for what Mike needs. Mm-hmm. Mike takes the lead on that Kelsey run, or on that Mahomes run, and I thought, the only thing that can't happen here is a Kelsey touchdown. That's the only thing, and there it went. It was a pass to Kelsey, touchdown.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was one of those games that was kind of written in the stars too, because the Chargers touchdown that put me ahead in the first place, Eckler almost went in, and then Herbert chucked a absolute laser to Josh Palmer, and I couldn't have been more excited for that. So that put me in the lead, and I'm feeling great. And then Mahomes, like you say, starts charging down the field, lighting up Sky Moore, lighting up MVS, running the ball, and now I'm behind. I'm like, oh no. And if he hadn't thrown the touchdown to Kelsey, even with that yardage, because obviously Herbert threw that interception at the end of the game, I wouldn't have had enough cushion to win the game, so I would have lost on a heartbreaker, I think. Mike's found his tight end, though. I think Mike has found his tight end.
I think so, too. So I heard a podcaster recently called Juwan Johnson the next Darren Waller, which was interesting, to say the least. I don't know that he's that, but Juwan Johnson has an affinity for catching touchdowns. Yeah. I thought Mike to put up what was, I think, either the second or third highest score of the week.
Yeah, second highest.
After losing Cup, I think you dodged that bullet as well, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
Is promising for him, and we'll see how he finishes the year. But you're 6-5. We'll get to the standings in a minute. I don't know. This wasn't the Monkey Mark matchup of the week, but I think me and you are going to go polar opposite directions with this one. So let's get this real quick. No roundup. 110.14 to 109.34. Who's Your Daddies falls to 5 and 6. FNG, who let me down last week. I went on the NAO show and said he was going to make a playoff run, and I thought he had a shot to do it, and then just bombed last week. He gets year 4 and 7 is his record, starting his guy Mariota. We're again going to go different directions. I was gutted for Mark. This was so brutal. When before the game he had 1% chance to win the game. It still says he has a 1% chance. We're waiting on that late stat correction, I guess. But I was like, man, I think both Kittle and Ayuk were projected under 9 points. Yeah, Kittle was projected 9.66, and Ayuk, where's he at? 9.88. And I was like, man, that's low for those guys. Like that's a very floor projection.
And don't forget he had Mitchell in there too.
And he did have Elijah Mitchell in the game, which I didn't expect a ton from. He's got 9 carries, 59 yards. That's decent. And we could go through the what could he have done, but man, that is just, he goes into that game thinking, there's no real shot. And then that happens and you think it's going to happen. And then everybody gets benched.
Yeah.
Gets benched from both teams. So I'm sorry, Mark, that is, your name needs to go back to Tough Luck Kid.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Because, didn't Ty Bergen? No, did. Oh no, that was in the other league. Sorry, I got crossed because there was another heartbreaker for Brandon in our redraft league with the 49ers defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was tough to watch. I mean, I don't. I'm not saying I'm gloating in Mark's misery, but it was kind of, he can be a little bit, he could be more magnanimous at times. So it was kind of enjoyable to watch the rug fall out from under him right at the end there, where all he needed was a couple of Mitchell tumbles forward and falling forward for 4 or 5 yards, and he would have got the win. So, and I'm sure he's gonna love the Patriots run back for a touchdown. That is the most questionable in the last 10 years or whatever. Obviously, helping out FNG big time there at the end. So,
I was just thinking that as I was looking at the Patriots score, they helped me in a couple of leagues too. The Patriots defense is kind of like the Kelsey of defenses. They are very good. I tried to trade from the last 2 years. FNG is not budging, so don't even bark up. But anyways, so that was brutal. Let's move on, as you will, to the standings. Do you want no, actually, I can't give you the honors of doing the standings because there's too much juice here, okay? First off, we see who number 1 is, and it doesn't show it here, but on the mobile app, there's an asterisk beside the UA Dogs name, and that's because we've locked up a playoff spot for the first time in NAO history. There was a little
act like you've been there before, okay? Act like you've been there before.
I can't.
Right. Well,
it is very interesting. I will say that I got invited to this league as a co-manager while I was in the hospital. My daughter had just been born. I am now, for the first time in the playoffs, as my third child is about to be born. Full 180 experience here.
Yeah.
Top Mike holds down the number 2 spots. He is now 2 games behind the 1 spot. He does still have the points for lead, clinging to that by just about 34 points. Goofy effing Jace is in 3rd place at 7-4. I would say he has a playoff spot locked up at this point. Crazier things have happened.
He does not have one locked up. I've run the numbers. It's not. There's a chance he misses the playoffs. Yeah.
There's definitely a chance. He's got, looking at schedule down the line, which we may touch on, he's got pretty cushy the rest of the way through, but not locked up. The tie at 4-5, but broke by points. Orlando City FC 6-5. Galvanized Blue Steel still out of the playoffs.
It's only like 10 points in it now, though.
At week 12, it is third. No, it's more than 10. 24. 13.
Oh, I'm looking at points again. Sorry. Yeah, 24. Yep.
4.18 to 170. So definitely closer. Who's Your Daddies now is a game out of contention, not counting points. He's definitely behind in points. He would probably need 2 games.
Yeah, he's a game and a half, I think.
Is at 1338 points, so you do overtake him in points.
He's actually looking good for the Who's Cares Bowl again. Good look, looking good there, Sean.
He's got a solid situation there. Where's Watson at 4-7? Just the Tips at 3-8, and Dilly, despite a win, stays at last place at 2-9. Ian, you're crunching all the numbers. Do you want to add anything to this standings race? Would you like to give us our props? Would you like to do that?
Absolutely not. No, we can move on.
Moving on to this week, and it gets juicy in week 12. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll just go straight down the list. Talking about starting with what I thought was an easy schedule, but F&G coming on strong as of late.
Yeah, he's looking like a tough team.
Versus Where's Watson? And a Tybrosian. That's like a Ron Burgundy thing. I read the projector has the question mark.
Yep.
Where's Ron Burgundy? So we got Hurts against Mariota, Aaron Jones against Stevenson. Jamal Williams has moved into the RB2 spot on the roster.
Wow, he got promoted. Nice job.
Curtis Samuel, which kind of brings the tears to my eye because I saw this coming, but he's had a solid year. He moves up. Lazard's been banged up. He will play on Sunday night. Cooper has just been a stud this season. So we could go through each of these. Tyquan Thornton, or Tyroid Thornton, as Mark called him last week, is in the starting lineup for Goofy. Goofy is
that's a bold play. Bold play.
I mean, he's got Thornton and Duvernay in there. He's got a ton of injuries, but who else does he start? AJ Dillon.
It's a fair point. I don't know that, but yeah, I don't know if I would be playing him. I probably would go Alec Pierce over Thornton, personally. We just can't move the ball in the air. As a Patriots fan, we cannot move the ball in the air. We're almost worse than Tennessee right now at moving the ball through the air. So yeah, I mean, he might get a touchdown, but I don't. That's what you're going to need one for him to be relevant. And I think F&G has a lot more. When I'm looking at it, I feel a lot more confident in the floor of his players versus, especially when you're looking at his flex and you got Godwin and Kenneth Walker, Juju, assuming he plays. That's big time edge for me as far as F&G is concerned.
Callie, the flex is short up for F&G, isn't it?
Oh, that is as short as I've ever seen a flex.
That's strong. Juju may not play.
He might not. Yeah, I agree, and he might have to swerve there, but I'm not sure what else he has on the bench.
The most Patriots thing I've ever seen. They're projected 6.66. 666 is the projection for the Patriots defense.
And that is, I apologize, but that is criminally low. That is criminally low.
That's pretty low, actually. They do play the Vikings, so we'll see. I heard a show today. It said, do the Vikings this week get like early Sunday Kirk Cousins or primetime Kirk Cousins on Thursday night?
Yeah. Who knows? That's a good question. Here's a big matchup.
Is this the marquee matchup of the week?
I think it has to be for no other reason than it's the rematch of probably the greatest matchup in our league's history earlier in the season. So, and there's obviously a lot of things on the line here. I'm obviously rooting for Mike in a big way. Sorry, Aaron, but it is what it is. Mike put him to the sword. He needs to get beaten for the second time this season. He needs to know his place.
So the question is, we just asked the Kirk Cousins, who do they get? Which Detroit Lions defense shows up? Is it the defense that gives up 50 points a game, or is it the defense that Humpty swears is on film that we might have saw for one half of football? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But Josh,
I could personally see, just because of his injury and things like that. I mean, I could see him running around a little bit. They're terrible against the run. This could be a big Singletary game.
Yeah.
I mean, not that Josh Allen won't chuck it around, but I don't know that it's a big 30, 40-point game for him. I mean, I could see him in the low 20s, like right around his projection, but he won't be the difference maker for Aaron. I don't think.
Mike will hope this is a Diggs week. A-Bomb will hope it is a Gabriel Davis week. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's always something I love. Again, obviously, I had it against Mike. Is having the main weapon to their quarterback because it really nullifies their potential upside, right? So because anytime that Josh Allen chucks a touchdown to Diggs, you get a 2 point, well, more than a 2 point plus because you get the yards too. So that's something that Mike has in his locker there, which is nice.
So touch real quick on some question marks. So Josh Allen, crazy to say he's a question mark, but has not played well since the supposed UCL injury. They did get the win last week. Question mark here for Mike, and you have to start him, but Swift, who got the third least snaps and carries this past week for Detroit. Maybe a chance for a bounce back game, but he plays a tough D. He's only projected 7.54 points.
Yeah, I hate that.
For a second.
But, I mean, I hate to see it. But I mean, if you have to play him, at least I would say you go in with low expectations. So if he gets any kind of touchdown, he's already beat his projection. So you're feeling pretty good at that point, right? I mean, that's kind of why you've been riding Najee all season because his projection's been so low, like 9 to 10 points. He falls in the end zone, and you're a net gain. So. Although, is he starting Kamara?
Yes, in the flex. Shoring up the flex.
Sure, why not? I like it. I like the Pickens move. He messaged me and he said he went more of the Pickens, and he regretted it. So I like the move. I think again, Mostert's questionable. I don't even know if he'll play, and if he does, I don't think he'll have much of a role this week. Wilson's kind of, like I said, took a stranglehold in that backfield. And it's a nice one to be part of.
Houston's D is so bad, so bad against the run that both guys could eat.
They could, yeah. Assuming he's good enough to go. I agree, and I think that's maybe where Mike might have slight advantages. If any of their guys do miss or they have to swerve, I think he has slightly more depth, even losing Cup, than Aaron does right now.
So we know Davis is definitely hit or miss, boom or bust. Kamara, on the other hand, has a tough face-off this week with 49ers that look rejuvenated. And then the battle of the defenses. This game could come down to the battle of the defenses. You got Indianapolis going against Pittsburgh. Maybe get some rookie interceptions. And then you got Buffalo going against Detroit. So Jared Goff, one more can. Give me the ball. But what is your projection on this one? Who do you think wins? Let's just call it.
I'm leaning Mike. Mahomes is just so damn good, and the Rams look terrible. And so I think the difference is going to be between the quarterbacks. And I think Josh Allen is slightly underperforms, and I think Mahomes has a 30-plus point game. Especially if Juju's back, he gains another solid weapon. Yeah, I just think. And I think Eckler has a big game this week, too, against a really poor Arizona defense.
When A-Bomb faces off against Mike, for some reason his team always goes banana land, and he scores 200 points, okay? I am going to take A-Bomb in this one, where I think Mike has some questionable pieces starting and some tough matchups. And I'm not just saying that because I want you to stay out of the playoff picture, because he could win and you could still go into the playoff picture. When I look at this matchup, I think A-Bomb has good matchups this week, and he's projected one of the highest projections in the league at 133. So we'll see how it pans out. We'll move on now. Don't have to talk about this one long. No disrespect to Dilly, but I did think it was funny that Sean said he got his Dilly last week because there's a Dilly around the corner. That's how you got back on the winning ways. So I'm not going to say anything too dumb. Or try not to, but I will say that things have to go very, very badly for us to lose this week, which could happen. I am considering starting Dak instead of Lamar just because Dak plays tomorrow, so I have to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't hate that. Dak is looking really, really good. It took a minute to ramp up, but he's looked great the last two games. So I wouldn't hate that swerve. I think you kind of can't lose. They both, the Rashard White, that's a bold move. I mean, I guess if you are resting, you talked about resting your starters, so I guess you're doing that.
Rashard White is a starter, and he is the starter in Tampa Bay. He has the best rookie running back still not hurt in this class.
Excuse me?
He's the best rookie running back that is not injured right now.
Kenneth Walker?
Better than Kenneth Walker.
You are so full of.
I'm not.
Bleep it out. Bleep it out.
Find out. We'll find out this week. No. So I'm excited to get Rachaad White into the lineup. Look, Cleveland's run D is terrible.
Yeah, it's bad.
We have been a little back and forth just because of coach banter. Look, if Rachaad White comes out and gets 60% of the snaps, I like it. But if he comes out and it's that weird 50-50 or 40, where both of them get 40% of the snaps and then the third guy gets 10% or whatever it is, like I don't want any part of that. So we are a little back and forth on starting White, but we have some time to make that decision. He has Pollard, which scares the crap out of me going against the Giants on prime time. Damian Harris. Jacoby Myers has been solid this year. Wide receiver 3.
Yeah, super solid.
And I think that's a long-term piece for him as well. Like, still a
Yeah,
young
yeah, 25, was he? 25, 26, so maybe just turned 26. Good player.
and the one thing we know is the Patriots aren't going to pay to get another wide receiver.
No, and honestly, I don't think he necessarily warrants a big contract, so I could see him re-signing for a decent deal. He seems to be comfortable in New England. He knows the offense pretty well, and he's been reliable. So, I can see him being another one of those pieces that stick around for a while.
So we got to avoid Thielen and Higbee touchdowns, which are always a concern. Antonio,
I'm looking forward to a Gibson revenge game against Atlanta, big time. Especially with Heineke under center. That could be a 20-25 point game for Antonio Gibson. I'm hoping for.
You know what? I hope he gets it too. I still love the guy.
Julio is a bold start. I'm not sure about that, but he did score last time they played, so I can see why.
And this right here, looking at this lineup, is why I said we didn't have to trade for Kirk, because we literally don't have Kirk in the lineup. And we don't have Lockett, who is a wide receiver 1 on the year in the lineup either.
Yeah. No, you have a good roster. You don't need to pander to yourself. We know.
That's not what I was trying to do, but it definitely sounds like that, so now I feel like a dick.
Oh, look how deep our roster is, so deep.
High register there. All right, moving on. Let's go to your game.
Oh, beautiful.
We're saving this one for last. That's my
There's a Sean. Oh.
No, we're saving that one for last. I like it. All right. Just the tips, and who's your daddy? Or the tough luck kid, as we like to call him.
Yeah, for sure. He's obviously hoping this is a get-right game for him. He's getting Tua back in the lineup. Zeke Elliott, I guess he's hoping for some usage from. And I do stand by. I think it's going to be a good game for Singletary against Detroit. So I think it's a long shot for the tips or the chodes or the chode, whatever. I think this should be a fairly comfortable win for Mark, but as we know, there is a curse rolling around the league, and he seems to get the worst end of it. So who knows? I mean, DeMarcus Robinson had a heck of a game last week. I think Nico Collins could potentially do something against Miami. Their secondary is absolutely horrific, and they're always in shootouts. So he's obviously a potentially good flex there.
Garbage time.
Yeah. So, I mean, the only guy I'm looking at in their lineup that I don't love is Terrace Marshall, but I don't know what other options they have. So it could be. I mean, obviously Tyler Boyd just put up a goose egg last week. So while it looks comfy for Mark, anything can happen. We know that. So honestly, Colin Williams might be a play there in the flex.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. KC's defense looks really good last week, but I mean
they did, yeah. Chris Jones is awesome.
One thing I can say though, I mean, obviously they have some rebuilding to do, the tip, the chode, whatever, but he's got plenty of picks next year, and they have some interesting pieces that could help him in this game. So we'll see how that one pans out. We'll move on to my marquee Mark matchup of the week. It is the Prince. It doesn't matter if he's in or out of playoff contention. This is his Super Bowl going against Ian. And Ian, I'm excited for this one. Y'all, second matchup of the year. Was the first one pretty close? I feel like I remember it being fairly.
No, I think I whooped his butt, to be honest. But
Oh,
let me. He talked it up for weeks and weeks, and I'm pretty sure I put him to the sword. What week was it? I beat him.
oh, hold
Nope.
on.
Is it 5?
Let's see. Where is I got Prince? It
Yeah,
was
5. 140 to 118.
okay.
So
So it was one of your better weeks. All right. Well, look. So he's got P Ryan in there. I'm very conflicted on this one because as much as I want Sean to win, and I do, I want Sean to not only win, I want him to embarrass you. To be completely honest, that's what I would like to see. As
never
much as
beaten me. Never beaten me. 4-0.
he is never beating you, wow.
I
So
am
as much as
no. I am 4-0 against Sean.
okay, can I finish my statement now?
Yes, you may.
As much as I would like him to beat you, that would make me rooting against Tennessee because I think the only way he does that is if his Bengals show out. And by his Bengals, I don't just mean Burrow and P. Ryan. Jamar Chase, the big piece he traded for, is expected to play this week, and he's got him in the lineup. I think it's one of those guys where you have to start him because the upside's so high. I'd be a little nervous, but he don't have a ton of other options. So
Mm-hmm.
Chase is back. For him to beat you, I think that game has to be high scoring and them go off, and that's not really the Titans' MO other than that like week 3 shellacking by Buffalo. Um, Looking at the flex here, he has some interesting pieces. Obviously, Zay Jones can go off. He can also post 3 points. Olave has been strong, but that 49ers defense is really good. And then Smith against Green Bay. Smith is a coin flip at this point. You have Montgomery, Wilson, and Etienne. I like all 3 of those starts, except for Etienne, just because Baltimore's defense has just been stupid with Roquan Smith there now.
Yeah, no, it's a good defense. There's still some moving pieces there, but he just he's so every single week he blows up for a 50-yard play. So it's like it's 5 points right there. So I mean, it's hard for him to bust really because if he does one big play and falls into the end zone at one point, which he's scoring a decent amount of touchdowns, he's at double-digit points on 2 plays. So um, his upside is way higher than his risk, in my opinion, even against a good Baltimore defense.
I see you have Debo back in there. I do have
I
one
do.
question, though. Where's the Sun God?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to play or not this week.
That's like every other week for him right now this season.
Yeah, it's this has been honestly. I'm finally getting everybody back healthy. I really this is going to be a difficult one for me to kind of pick. I've got Gallup's back and he's starting to look better. DPJ is playing well. Deontay's getting volume.
Great.
Yeah, DK is playing solid too. There's a lot of pieces there that and obviously Christian Watson just came out and is so I mean he has but I don't Philly, do I really want to start against Philly? That one I'm not sure about. So there's just a lot of good pieces, a lot of question marks. The only thing I really hate right now with a passion is my defenses are trash, and I always pick the wrong one. So it makes life difficult. But if I can overcome that hurdle, I feel pretty confident going into this week. And my biggest thing is if you say about Burrow, I know Chase is probably back. I don't know how much usage he'll get and whether he'll be out there in a decoy role, but I still think Higgins it will be the first look this week. And so, kind of to my point earlier, if Burrow has a good game, Higgins probably has a good game too. So, feel pretty good there.
The last time the Titans played the Bengals was in the playoffs last year, and Joe Burrow got sacked, I think, like 9 times.
Yeah.
But he started a decent game, so there's that too. Interesting. Titans defense is a little banged up. They do get 10 days rest coming into this game. A little fun fact. Sorry, golly, I'm sneezing. Vrabel, when he has at least 10 days of game planning, I think he's only lost like 1 game. He's like 9-1 or something stupid. With that being said, there's a little bit of hiccups going on right now in Tennessee. Their offensive coordinator coming off the best performance. So he gets named in this up-and-coming coach thing. He's 42 years old. He gets named as a potential next head coach, which shocked me because they Offensively, we haven't been great. Then he comes out and just has a masterful game plan against Green Bay. The plane lands Friday morning at 3 a.m. in Nashville, and he gets arrested for a DUI driving home. So that's what's going on with our OC this week. If I am Sean, I'm just going all in. I'm starting the Bengals defense too. Like you need them to do well to win anyways. Might as well just throw all you got at it. But I'm assuming you feel comfortable this week. Is that what you're saying?
I feel fairly confident that I'll get the win this week. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I've never gone into a matchup with Sean feeling like there's a potential for him to beat me. So this isn't one either.
In my best Sean impression I can do, Ian, I'm picking you to win this week.
Yeah, right.
I'm leaving that at that. That wraps up our show. Unless we want to add anything fun here at the end, we actually got out. I think we're going to be under an hour.
Awesome. So we are officially better at this than they are, and they do it every week.
I wouldn't go that far. I would much rather them continue to do this than me jump on here and do it.
Yeah, me too. But they were trying to dodge the bullet there, and I'm not willing to let them do that. Like I said. So yeah, I appreciate it.
So
and we're gonna go ahead.
I want to look at something real quick. Let's look at. I think I have something here. Let's look at end of the season real quick. Let's look at the last 3 weeks playoff picture. Do you have just a minute to do that?
Sure.
It's a copy of the schedule.
Oh my gosh!
Just take a little condensed version here, okay? Just a little condensed action. So the last 2 playoff spots, if you say 2 are still available, are going to come down to Goofy, A-Bomb, yourself, and Mark.
Yeah.
Mark still has an outside chance. So let's look at schedules for the last 3 weeks. So moving past, well, I guess we've already talked about this week. So moving to next week, let's take it one at a time. Goofy will have F and G left on his schedule. I'm going to slide all the way over here. F and G, the tips, and then Marky Mark. So if we had to go ranking schedule strength, probably has one of the easiest left. F and G does have 4 wins, and Mark has 5, so definitely anything can happen there. But interesting to note, A-Bomb has Tank Top Mike this week, obviously a big one. That's the one you need, I think. Dilly, and then you. And that's got to make you feel good that you have him on your schedule. Like you get a chance to make that loss happen.
Yeah, I do like that. I like to have my destiny in my hands, so to speak. It's never great. I've had that in the past where you're kind of praying for another guy to do the job for you to get in. It's not fun. So.
And then last but not least, on yours, you have the Prince this week, which is a bottom 4 team currently right now. Marky Mark, who was bottom 5 from last year, and you draw him on this week. And then you close out with A-Bomb, who, you have some buys that week too. I think this season is going to wrap up with a bang. And I'm not doing playoff projections. Mark, just because I don't want to leave Mark out. Mark has the tips this week, a chance to get a get back right game. But then he has 2 teams that are in the playoff hunt. He has you and Goofy left on his schedule. So how are you feeling this season's going to wrap up just overall?
Yeah, I think, like you said, Goofy. There is a potential for Goofy to leave, to fall out right at the end, kind of do a Sean in past years, because I believe both of the first 2 years Sean was in the playoff hunt up to the week before, and then he fell out, and A-Bomb replaced him both times, which is humorous for everybody else. So I think that there's a potential for that to happen. But if I were to put my money on it, I would say Goofy probably finishes third. He does. I agree. I think he probably has the softest of the schedules for the remaining playoff teams. And so I think there is a potential for my week 14 against Aaron not to mean anything. but I do think that's probably going to be the decider between me and him who gets in. I think Mark is going to end up in sixth place probably, unfortunately, because he does have the toughest of the schedules remaining against two good teams. I think the only reason I think Goofy could fall out is because he's suffering from a lot of injuries right now, as we're seeing, because he's flexing in guys like Thornton. So that limits his upside in a big way.
Goofy needs one more, right? Like one more probably locks him up. If he gets one more win,
I think
tough to fall out.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I think you might be right on that one. Which obviously getting tips next week is feeling pretty good for him. But as we've seen, they can score points, and he can score not many. So they're like you say, this is why this is such a good league. I mean, every single season it's come down to the final week for that final playoff spot. So there's potential that those final two spots are still up for grabs coming into week 14, which is pretty cool.
Here's what I hate about it. Can I just be frank for a minute? Here's what I hate about it. Right now, we're the number 1 seed. We got 2 games up, really 1.5 because of the whole point situation, right? We're 1 full game ahead. And if we do finish with the first seed, our grand prize is either getting a former champion or A-Bomb, the guy who scored 200 points at one point this season. Like
the current champion.
Huh?
You mean you get either of the only champions?
Yeah, either of the only champions in the entire league is what we'll end up getting, possibly, unless Goofy were to fall in that 4 spot.
Yeah, well, let me cry you a river real quick, because I got to face Aaron both years, and in both years we were the top 2 scorers in the semifinal. I happened to be first in the first year, and he happened to be first in the second year. So you'll see no sympathy from this side.
You're not making me feel any better about potentially facing Aaron.
Or me. We literally have the average of 1.5 of the highest score in the semifinal. So.
Oh, God. So we'll see what happens there. Do we have a game we can tank? I'm kidding. There's not a lot to be said. We have Dilly, F&G, and the tips left on the season. So a little other side note, we could finish with the best record in league history in one season.
That's true. That is true. And that record will be updated. That record will be updated.
Okay.
I'm not saying it'll be timely, but it'll be updated.
All right. Any parting words, Ian?
Yeah, I just got a couple. Sean, you suck.